Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I'm your host, Rob Lee, and today's guest is street artist and sculptor Reed Bmore. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rob, for having me on.
So yeah, you're like the Ghostface killer. You're like the MF Doom of this situation or what have you. As we're recording, you got the mask on. I really appreciate it. So let's get into it. Can you describe your work? I touched on it, but I think the artist, the creative, gets a little bit deeper into what they do. I said sculptor, I said street artist, but can you describe your work?
Yeah, so all in all, I basically use wire to sculpt 2D drawings and install them on traffic lines in the middle of the street. And yeah. That's
fire. So that's unique. That's really unique to me. How did you find that creative niche? Is like, this is what I want to do. This is kind of where I'm at, and this is the art I want to pursue.
I don't know. Honestly, it came out of a time, because like I started about like 6 years ago and I've been going strong ever since. But I remember like thinking back then, it came out of like a lot of boredom and kind of like came out of a lot of like a necessity to express myself in a certain way. You know, so I mean, like I've always been doing the whole wire thing. It was just after getting out of, you know, like school and only having like all of my design work. Cause I used to do like product and architecture, like back in the day, you know, so having like all of these almost out of touch, you know, art pieces that are on flash drives. I don't know. It didn't really like jive with what I wanted to do. So, I mean, it kind of like came out of the necessity of expression that I just wanted to have a voice and do something different, you know, and take a chance. And I don't know, that's kind of where I am now, you know?
So I obviously did some Instagram stalking and all of that good stuff, and see that you've gone from like into various cities or what have you. And I think some of your art has been in like Philly and a few other places, but I remember Philly sticking out. Like, where are some of the most unique places and kind of some of the odder places you were able to kind of to install some of your work?
Well, I mean, recently I just got I've probably been like 3 weeks back into the city, but before that, I just got back from a month and a half long camping and adventure, like dropping a friend off in California.
Yeah.
And, because I stopped off and I had a bunch of places on the way back. We took the southern route, but I think one of the weirdest places that I probably went was this town called Miami, Texas.
Oh, wow.
And it was odd. You know what I mean? It was a culture shock on my end, coming from a city and then going to a place where, you know, like the store clerk wasn't in because we happened to be on a Sunday and everybody was at church. You know what I mean? And like, it was, you know, and the town was like 400 people. And I don't know, I just found like a spot in the middle of like the dead center of their town. And I installed like a weird Miami dolphin with a cowboy hat.
Okay. That's like, great.
Like in the middle, but it was just weird because, you know, and I've never really been, you know, traveled outside other than that to see so like sparseness, you know? Mm-hmm. So that was pretty interesting.
So your work, obviously, and we'll talk about that Yeehaw Miami, Yeehaw Dolphin a little bit more. But your work is super unique from what I'm seeing. I dig it. I see like this kind of commentary that's there. I see humor. I see just expression that's there. Could you talk a little bit more about your process? I'm curious on how you get into this idea of, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to turn it into this particular thing that I'm thinking of or that I'm seeing.
Well, I mean, in my neighborhood, I use it more so as like pathfinding or wayfinding or creative making. And I don't know, when I go into different cities, it's more so about like finding connection, you know. That's probably the most important part that we could that we could do as artists, is finding like those niches of, you know, culture where we might find or be culture shocked traveling, but you know, there's some capacity for, you know, commonality. And I think that's where art is super important in the creative process, is like try to find those connections,
Mm-hmm.
So going into like other cities and places, doing the research on like symbolism that people love, or like bump, it's like, when I go to in a space, is like, what is this city's like natty bowhead? You know what I mean? And it's just like, what is that weird thing that everybody here in the neighborhood kind of connects to, because it speaks so much about like, their own local culture or like their local cuisine. And how can I use that symbolism as a way of, being a catalyst to tell a story or tell something else, And I guess that's kind of like the way that I go about it, is just trying to use street art to find some connection,
Yeah. And I noticed that with just like, I got Basquiat stuff in and around here, and I try not to feel like a poser that I have it. So I tend to go when I travel to different places and I see just what's out there, what's in just different parts that may have, like, I'll go down to New Orleans. It's like, okay, let's look at the street art here. Let's check out what's in the alleys. Let's check out what's in these different areas that aren't on the that tourist layout. And it's like, oh, okay, this is what makes sense here. This is what this part of the city is about. And I noticed that some people I've talked to, they look at the term street art as a bit of a pejorative. What are your takes on it? Do you like embrace that? Do you say, nah, I'm more of this. I lean more into the sculptor part of it as opposed to using the nomenclature of like a street artist.
Well, I think the whole, the capability of street art is there. There's a difference, I think, in like, the graffiti mask and like street art and like what the perception or like what the narrative you're trying to speak going through those things are. But where it shares commonality is the illegality of it, the ability to kind of, not having a voice and just saying, fuck you, I'm going to put this stuff up anyway, because this is how I feel, and I feel like we've lost a lot of power and just trying to express those things publicly. You know what I mean? Like going big. And like, I think that it's like, there's something pure about just writing on a wall or like or putting something up on a line so people could just see it. We spend all that time like looking at like weird ads that people pay for that we're forced to like look at whether we have consent or not. Like,
as much as I've been on YouTube and staying in and trying to watch like DJ mixes to get through the day, I'm like, can I not get an ad? I don't want this. I didn't ask for this ad. I'm not buying this hemorrhoid cream.
And then they added two ads, you know what I mean? It went from one ad. I remember the days when it was just like no ads, and then we got pissed over one ad, and then they went two ads on us. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have 30 seconds to click through all of this, It's like, I'm not getting YouTube premium because they're still going to show ads,
Yeah, that was the thing that Hulu was doing. It's like, oh, we're not going to have any ads if you buy this. And of course they did. They still had them in there, and you can't get around it. But so let's see. Social commentary and seems like the social commentary and your opinions maybe on current events are kind of baked in some of the stuff that you're doing. What, like, and I think you touched on it, but what would you say is something you may have gotten flack for? Like obviously, you keep your identity kind of vague or what have you, not out there, but what is something you may have gotten flack for? You're saying, all right, maybe this is not the take I should have on this particular piece. Let me see where I'm at. Where have I completely processed this thought?
No, I don't think I've really, I haven't crossed any boundaries on my own self yet.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm wearing the mask just because that's what we have to do here in the studio.
Okay. Gotcha.
And if I'm just going to like speaking out loud and, all the stuff is going to be floating around. I guess like one of the pieces recently that I did is I did a fuck SeaWorld piece.
I seen that.
And then I hung it right outside of SeaWorld. And I don't know, like when my friends like found that and they were like bumping it and try to like push it out there, like it was a half and half in San Diego of the communities being like, oh no, like San Diego, or, like SeaWorld does good things. And like, yeah, but it's all performative. So doesn't really fucking matter anyways. I definitely caught a little bit of slack from that, but I don't know. Like, I already wrote that check while putting the piece up, and I wasn't afraid to cash it.
Yeah.
I
I think one of the things that, and I admire it. I admire this notion to say kind of like, screw it, kind of like, fuck it. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And this is what I'm thinking. And it's pure. I appreciate that. And, you know, doing this particular thing, being a podcaster, like some people say it's awesome. Some people say it's not. Some people just say it's just fucking wasting your time and all of that. And I've been doing it for a while, like 12 years. And sometimes I'll go back and like look at takes like, okay, that wasn't maybe the best thing there, or my position definitely is different now. And I find like only up until recently, especially with this particular podcast, people have more things to say about, well, maybe you shouldn't have said that. And then I get very defensive. It's like, fuck you. Like I say what I want to say. That's kind of like where I'm at. Like, this is my art form. This is what I'm choosing to do. And any penalties that comes from it, I accept them if there's anything. But at the end of the day, I'm accountable to myself and my authenticity and what I believe in.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to protect that. That's a part of your art form. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Plus, that's the creative rights of owning a podcast and inviting people to come on. You know what I mean? They got to expect that, at least, you know what I mean, from going on to any public sphere, like the backlash, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's unequivocal. It's not, it's like the expectations aren't right. You know, people don't get their expectations right.
Yeah. And I think part of it goes into just this idea, like as soon as the notion of money or the notion that, oh, other people are going to start seeing this, then you start being a little bit more gun shy in what you're putting out there. And I'm very just against that. It's just, it's icky. It gives me an icky feeling. It's like you're selling out by definition.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy most about your work?
Probably just doing it, honestly. You know what I mean? Like the hours of the days like spent, you know, just being in flow, that mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just kind of like just making stuff and just thinking about other processes in the day, or just like hanging out with the roommates. But honestly, like the hardest part about doing anything is starting it and finishing it. But when you're in it, you know what I mean? And you're really like, you're garnering that the motivation to do something, because you got to force yourself. There isn't like motivation as soon as you wake up. It's like an active process, you know?
Totally.
And it's almost like, you know, when you could just sit there and autonomously just create something just because all I need is my hands and like a 3D line, you know, it's kind of nice because I could still make and like be a part of the day, you know? Mm-hmm. So I guess that's probably it.
Yeah. I mean, you know? I think once you're in it and you're doing it, and I've been trying to read to have a better understanding of some of the people I interview, because you don't want to come off as just some jerk asking like goofy questions that aren't even relevant. And I try to read more books about just different artists and their processes. And it's always interesting to kind of see how different people approach today. And it was a writer, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he had this post about like how he goes about his process was, whatever you write, it has to go out. It has to be done. You have to do it. You have to start it. You have to finish it, and you have to put it out there. Even if it's dog shit, you have to put it out there, own what you're doing. And I would have loved to have picked his brain, because I find like a lot of times people will start something and then they don't finish it. And especially like writers, you know, writer's block and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So in that, creative blocks are a thing. Even with something like this, that seems as simple as I'm just going to talk to people and ask questions, and it's some degree of creativity that goes along with it. How have you run into any creative blocks, and what are some of the things you've done to get past them?
Oh, all the time, man. You know what I mean? Like feeling stagnant. I feel that's one of the pluses of me having to do this trip is I, you know, almost re-energize my creative battery, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think like the most important thing, if felt in one of those ruts, is like you gotta first admit to know that you're in a rut, and I don't know, just keep up with like your healthy boundaries, like drink a lot of water, because you got to realize like shit goes up and down. And as much as you want to force yourself out of it, you just got to make sure that you yourself as like a human is well taken care of, and like not stressing about something that just comes natural as a creative,
Totally.
And, make sure you're getting some exercise and like working your heart and doing all those things. And then when you're ready to feel like you need to hit the ground, you got to just do something different, watch like 5 more documentaries and just like, go out with, I guess, just your eyes wide open to new concepts,
Totally. Absolutely. Because as I'll say, it's been especially hard to try to do some of this stuff with how COVID has affected certain people. And I see people being more demonstrative and more direct about some of those boundaries they're putting into place, especially some of the creatives that I follow and have done these podcasts with. It's like, look, I'm going to take this next month off of social media. I got to just do shit for myself right now. And, I find myself adopting that same process, because you get burned out doing 4, 5, 6 podcasts a week. And it's like, all right, this is kind of losing its meaning for these different reasons. And it's like, all right, I'm not seeing things straight. And let me come back and let me get the proper rest. Let me get some, proper hydration, proper meal, and let me take care of myself first. And that'll make me better at creating stuff that I think is worth my time and energy. So there's 2 things, and we got a few Baltimore questions, and then we'll be wrapping up.
Yeah, for sure.
So what traits, if any, do you think that creative people have compared to people who consider themselves not to be creative?
Definitely different. I want to say like originality. Everybody has the capacity to be creative, talking to people, like it's all a spectrum, depending on whether if it's like something that they wanted to garner from when they were young, but they were just trying to figure out some way to get by. So they took that job.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Everybody has that. And it's hilarious when I ask people like, what do you do as a thing? And they say that they're not creative. It's just like, to me, accounting is creative. Yes. I don't know how to do that, but you ask anybody who works with numbers, they're like, I don't do shit. I crunch numbers all day. And it's like, you got to find whatever that like weird spark is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like the difference is like, they just, people lean really hard on that creative muscle. That's the only thing that separates, in bed creatives to people who are outwardly expressing creativity,
I dig that. I think when you get a little too creative with the numbers as an accountant, then at least the audits. I've heard that. Like sometimes I'll ask. I throw like in that first season. This is the 3rd season of the podcast, and in that first season, I would ask people very weird Baltimore questions or questions about like, what kind of unique talents do you have? It's like, I'm not talented at all. It's like, you're fucking audience. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is this? What is this lack of talent? So here's some of my Baltimore questions. So you touched on like that trip that you took recently, and you used that as a means. One of the byproducts was that was a means to help you recharge. What is your favorite place to recharge in Baltimore?
Honestly, like, I feel very comfortable in my own skin. I recharge on the go.
Yeah.
Probably just being maybe on my roof. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I've been everywhere in Baltimore, and it's just like, at this point, like, I just want good rest and good company. And it doesn't really matter like where I'm at. Hopefully I have like food in my hand or something,
Yeah.
But that's where I am,
Yeah, I think for me it's like different places. I would go down to like Station North or something like that, and for whatever reason it's just like an aura. Maybe it's all of the different little coffee shops or pre-COVID, obviously, but with all the different people out there, the different people from different schools and all, it's just an energy and an aura that's just floating around. And maybe it's the architecture there I'll see, and it gives me just something just clicks there, and I'll have to have a notepad with me. Okay, this would be a funny premise to talk about. You ever think about things in this way? And, and that's kind of how it is. Like I had this, this bit that I was writing, just like one day after kind of walking through the area, and I was like, I need to finish this. And it was with all of the stuff that was happening with the postal service. And I was like, it would be pretty funny to have like somebody like street harassing the postal worker, like, hey, you got my packages? And I was like, that would be funny to me. And let's expound that, and let's make it as, weird and absurd as possible. Let's play. I'm gonna give you the setup here. Let's play. Let's play. You're a marketing person. Okay. What would be your pitch to have folks come visit Baltimore? Because we've had some terrible ones in the past. Baltimore, the city that reads. Baltimore, get in on it. Baltimore ain't that bad. But what would be your pitch to have someone come relocate or come and visit?
I'm saying the city of authenticity.
See, I knew it, man. We're on the same page, man. We're on the same page. Yeah.
I've been around, and still, even traveling and camping and driving through like random cities, like everybody has like their weird, like little niche, but like you find artists here and they're like born and like bred, or like, what I mean? They're like cooked in a Baltimore kiln, and something about that just makes this city just way more real, that I felt,
Yeah.
But that's probably what I would get to. Like, come here. We have some good times and good vibes. Yeah. You meet with the right people. Come here because there's a family for you here,
Yeah, that was a theory. The authenticity, right? That was a theory that I had like early on. I used to ask some of the Black artists that I would have come on, guests I would have come on. I would say, who's our like pop culture representative from here? And none really had the answer that was like at a certain level that was like, outside of regional, maybe like has some global appeal. And I was like, I don't know how far people from Baltimore really make it because of that. Some people may feel gritty authenticity, and Hollywood and all of that shit is so fake that it just is a clash. Yeah. It's a clash.
It is, you know what I mean? But I think the difference is like that I found out is like it's hard to get if there's like no money in the city,
That's true.
I think that's like one of the biggest standpoints and like hardest things to really realize as an artist here. And even me, being here, like I could understand truths, you know what I mean, to the matter. Mm-hmm. And just like we as a city probably have the most diverse, like talented range of artists that are in it for like the good reason. You know what I mean? And like petty squabbles and like all of these things situated around money is all just because like, as Baltimore as a whole just doesn't have a lot of it, You see a lot of people going to New York or DC or outside of like Virginia, like to really do their thing. But I don't know. I feel like there's a deeper reasoning to why, that is, that there isn't a national thing to Baltimore,
Yeah. There's this notion that at least in this like area, every dickhead has come up with a podcast over COVID, and being someone that's done it for as long as he has, and I look at it for what it is. It's something I use as it's catharsis as a means of expression, and I have a good time doing it. And with doing this particular podcast that's really gone up during COVID, I've been able to meet a lot of interesting folks. And I'll say, hey, man, this is like episode 60. And someone's like, hold on, you found 60 interesting, unique talents in Baltimore? I was like, there are hundreds of them. People are dope here. And, I'm trying to do my part, this little sliver to kind of show and highlight just some of the individuals that we have here that are dope. But then you'll have other people who want to be the voice of podcasting here. And it's laughable. It's really laughable at times. And it goes back to kind of what you were getting at. There's only so many, I won't say purely money, but that is the biggest component, and that's the language that we speak in. But it's only so many opportunities, you know, and you just have so many people. It's like, yeah, I'm the king of this. It's like, are you?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just like you're not going to make it. It just do it for the right reasons. Do it because you enjoy doing it. Don't do it because you want sponsors, you want money, or you want to use this as a stepping stone to something else. I don't know. It'll
get there. Definitely. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, first of all, you got to make sure that you're being real. You know what I mean? And like, you know, like where your boundaries are, and just kind of, you know, just be your best and be humble at it, you know?
Yeah.
It's mostly like, this is a small city. So if you're really going to try to do something, you know, you got to have like that teamwork and that foundation, you know?
Totally. And some of the people that I've tried to have on this show, like, you know, you'll have in this age of cloud and all of that, it's like, oh, this person has 20,000 followers. I definitely have to have them on. I was like, I don't like their art, or I don't jam with what they're doing. So I try to, going back into it, I try to let that authenticity, like, what do I like? Who do I want to talk to? Otherwise, it would just be a stilted, boring, uninteresting conversation, I think. And which brings me to my last question to wrap up all of my boring, stilted questions. No,
give yourself more credit.
I'm kidding. So, you know, obviously I'm from here. What have you, been here my entire life. And, you know, it's wonderful for once in the last decade to hear about Wire associated with Baltimore and not be a TV show. Yeah. What is your ultimate overall take on Baltimore? Like in terms of maybe different pockets, not necessarily art, but maybe like, what do you think of the food scene here? What do you think of like, just like how people operate? You touched on the authenticity, but just what is that summation of you in Baltimore? Because there's a reason you're here. You're still here, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody has just such a passion to do what they do. You know what I mean? And as the city as is just, there's so many pockets of different culture that almost weave in and out of each other, you know, and that's how I found out about all the things that I love now from Baltimore is just, you know, like loving like music groups over at like the Crown or something like that. And that led me to like some good, you know, like food people who did culinary arts. And that introduced me to like a bunch of other performative aspects, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those types of cities where the scalability, it makes you feel like you could actually do something good, you know, in the space for the time and, you know, for what you have and actually affect something, you know?
I dig it.
Like, you know, you're like 2 degrees away from knowing everybody here in the city, you know what I mean? And if you're smart about it, you know, you'll use it to be successful in whatever degree that is. And it's very possible, you know, plus like the city's fucking awesome. So
that might be the trailer for this. City fucking awesome. Moving on. Yeah, that's like in doing this, I find like so many people are just in the same groups and I've had people hit me up just, man, my friend did your show. I need to do your show now. I was like, okay, cool. Let's do it. What's your stuff look like? What we got? And what do you do? And I agree. It's like you can, once you find like that sliver where people are at, that kind of your tribe, if you will, or those people that you would be able to rock with, it's like you're just there. It's, you know, if you come off as real and you're doing shit that's good and you do good stuff, they're doing good stuff, and you find some common ground, it's accessible. Baltimore is authentic and accessible, I think.
It is. You know what I mean? We gotta like help each other, like bring ourselves up in the city, you know what I mean? And find like other pockets that might need a hand and figure out what we could do as like creatives in whatever measure to just, you know, cause you know, people keeping each other down, the health of the city depends on everybody bringing each other up, you know? So
I agree. That's ultimately the, like, you know, like I look at what I do here as in some ways public service. Like I can sit here and do my goofy comedy podcast and have a good time doing that. 2 people to listen and that'll be cool. But I'd rather do this in conjunction with that because it's kind of giving back. It's showing like we got a lot of, cool people here that are doing cool things. And it's not solely about myself or about a few people that I like, but it's like, hey, do you do something that's interesting? Would you be interested in coming on? And, hopefully helping everyone kind of get some eyes on it. And that's literally what it is. So
yeah, you're being Rob Lee, the great connector.
I'm trying to be like the Lego guy or what have you. So in this last second, I like to have a segment where I call shameless plugs. You have anything that you want to put out there, anything you want to plug? Thank you again for coming on this podcast. This has been great. You're a really chill dude, so I like this.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I don't know, just follow my IG at Reed Bmore Art. Other than that, work on your mental health. That shit's fucking important. Shout out to being healthy. Shout out to being locked inside, but still trying to figure out ways to just cope in good manners.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Shout out to mental health.
Hell yeah. So I'll do my sign off and that'll be that. So for the God, Reed Bmore, I'm probably saying that there's art in and around Baltimore. Maybe it's near lights. Maybe you have to look around. Maybe you have to check these things out. You just got to look for it.